two approaches to clutter. One is Marie Kondo, does it spark joy? The other one is more of faith-based angle, which is give yourself grace. Effort matters more than results. Focus on finishing things. Start with the easiest thing first. You know, a lot of times in the self-help space, you'll hear that
do the hard
phrase,
thing first.
Eat the frog. No. What story are you writing with your home?
You're listening to the Visibly Fit Podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a natural path fitness expert and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Visibly Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. It's a delight to be here with you today. You know, this is kind of the time when people are starting to think about spring cleaning. I know I've had several people on this show in the past that are organizers and, are all about cleaning and decluttering and that kind of thing, because it's important. It's important that we understand how we can best operate as individuals and to be our healthiest, best selves in the process. And a lot of that, our environment is a reflection of our internal health and even our physical health. And so all this is just really, really important, but we're all wired a little bit differently. But today I have on the show with me Whitney English, and she just wrote a book called Organize First, Decorate Second. And she believes that anyone can live a beautiful life. She believes that gratitude is the birthplace of joy, that people matter, that love is the answer, that if you're real, you can't be ugly, that everyone is creative and some of us have just forgotten, and that it's worth trying to be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. She has bootstrapped 2 businesses to 7 figures. She has a degree in interior design. She has studied management at Parsons in New York City and has had her work featured on in O Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and on the Today Show. She was on the Today Show twice. And she was also featured as one of Country Living Magazine's Women Entrepreneurs in 2008. One of her favorite dreams that did come true is that she married her husband, David, and they have 3 amazing children. I'm so excited to share her with you. But before I bring her on, I just wanted to share this scripture verse. Proverbs 24, 3-4 says, "By wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches." Let that sink in and enjoy the show. Well, hello, Whitney English. It is a delight to have you here on the Visibly Fit Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, this is so fun because this is kind of the season of the whole spring cleaning, and people kind of have that mindset of minimizing, but we're going to talk about some maximalism, which is contrary to what a lot of people think about doing during this time. But you just wrote a book called Organize First, Decorate Second. And I want to first of all ask you, what led you to even start this journey of writing books around organization and just getting people in order, so to speak?
Well, it's definitely not because I'm naturally organized. I always tell people, and I talk about this story in the book a little bit, but I grew up in a museum and everything was perfectly ordered. I mean,
don't touch it. Yeah.
Yeah, there were rooms we weren't allowed to go into. We weren't supposed to gouge the butter.
Oh.
Like if, we had the little Fleischmann's margarine tubs is what we had because it was the 80s and 90s. And you were supposed to, your knife was supposed to float gently over the top of the butter. You weren't just supposed to stick your knife in there. And I mean, it was intense. It really was. And so growing up, I mean, I think first of all, there was that inner child. There's what I've realized, and we can back up and talk about this some more, is that my external environment, my home, is a reflection of my internal person, like how I'm doing.
100%.
And so as a child growing up in that environment, I was trying to survive, first of all, in a very structured, need to find the right word for it. But I talk a lot about this in the book because it left me feeling deficient. And then also when you're in your teenage phase and you're trying to find your own identity, there was that inner rebellion a little bit of just like, well, I'm not going to keep my room clean. It wasn't conscious. It wasn't like I intentionally wanted to keep my room clean. I think it was very subconscious, and you're a teenager. You're just trying to figure that stuff out. At the same time, it was very beautiful. It was a very beautiful home. And my mom taught me a lot about beautiful things and maintaining them. I mean, just picture Martha Stewart as your mother. Like it was intense. So I also grew up loving and really just enjoying the benefits of a very clean environment. So I wanted to write a book about home. I got my degree in interior design, and my editor said, well, people are always looking for the next organizing book. And I thought, okay, if I can marry these two ideas. And I was cleaning one day and just thought in my head, I thought organize first, decorate second. I was talking to myself. I was telling myself what to do. Like, you're going to have to get this organized before you can hang the plates on the wall, Whitney, And so that kind of rang in my head as a title, and we built the book around that.
Well, I love that. And I have had actually several people on Visibly Fit that talk about clearing out clutter and decorating and how to create order around your home, because a lot of my patients, they come to me, of course, wanting to lose weight and get healthy and that kind of thing. But so many of them are struggling with their environment. And like you said, it's a reflection of kind of what's going on the inside, and then it reflects outwardly in their physical appearance usually, or just even maybe it doesn't show up with excess weight, but it shows up with exhaustion, depression, those kind of things. And so it's so important that we find our way through our stuff. And so I wanted to bring you on because you're friends with one of my friends, and I just thought, oh my goodness, this is great. This is a great opportunity. And this is, quote unquote, spring cleaning kind of time. But you talk a little bit about maximalism, and usually I'm talking about minimizing. Like, let's clear the clutter. Let's so let's talk about that. What's your take on maximalism?
Well, it definitely has to be organized. I love stuff. I mean, do your viewers watch this on YouTube ever? Do you put the videos?
I hope so.
So you can see the plates
on the wall. Yes,
on the wall behind me. I love old things. I love things with a story, and I love to write. And so that was one thing that came out in the book was what story are you writing with your home? And that probably applies to many of your clients. And what story are they writing? What story are you writing with your body? And so a lot of times we'll put the elephants out there. There are like two approaches to clutter. One is Marie Kondo, does it spark joy? And then the other one is more of a faith-based angle, which is give yourself grace. And I found myself stuck in the middle of everything sparks joy. I love it all. How do you pick just one thing?
I think you're not alone there.
Right. And okay, I'll give myself grace. I'll stay in bed today and drink coffee and
let the laundry. The extreme of the grace. Yeah.
Right. And so I found myself caught in this tension. And anytime I find myself struggling between two extremes, I recognize that I'm in a story. That is internal conflict. And whenever I recognize that, I can then sort of step outside the day to day and find the narrative and determine how I want it to end. How do we want this to go? Do I, what's the result of sitting in bed day after day and not folding the laundry? Or what's the result of I'm also very creative with everything. And that can lead to like lots of little unfinished projects all over the place all the time.
Yes.
And so just recognizing, I guess that is in a way, recognizing that tension is a way of giving myself grace while also practicing the discipline. I had a therapist tell me one time that I wasn't disciplined, and he sent me home with this little booklet. And the booklet basically said, the way that you grow your discipline is you do things you don't want to do. Like,
That's
thank
right.
you.
That's how you get stronger.
Right. Therapist and little booklet. Like, and so that's the muscle that I kind of turn on in those moments when I find myself just way too much on the grace side of things and not enough on the structure side of things. I think, what can I finish? What can I do? What's right in front of me that I can do? And so I sort of feel like I've hacked my way to not a perfectly organized house at all, but something that hopefully is working and teaching my kids that effort matters more than results.
Yeah. And having a home that, for you, it's important that it feels lived in as opposed to how you were brought up. And so we learn from ways in which we're taught if we want to go that way or not, and then we make a different way as an adult. But it's all personal, right? It's all individual, but it's also one of those things that's kind of a touchy subject, if you will. It's almost like with health and wellness, with your weight or whatever. It's all very personal. It's very touchy, and so I think people have a desire, like deep down, they want to have an organized home, right? And have order, because our God is a God of order. Like, we're made in his image. And so I think that people have a desire to be like that. Same with their health and their well-being. They have a desire to be healthy and whole and feel, this vitality. But so often it's right here between our ears, our mindset, right? There's so much going on in here with drama and traumas and just the mental health aspect of it all. And so do you want to talk a little bit about that as it in regards to maximalism versus minimizing versus just getting a home in order, and also organizing first and decorating second, and how that looks?
Well, I think as a creative,
overwhelm.
Yeah, I think as a creative, I do find myself motivated by the beauty of things. And so recognizing that, leaning into that, embracing that can act as a motivator.
Yeah.
Some people are going to be very motivated by a decluttered space. I just love beautiful things. I love I have a small jungle over here, and I love, I love the shape of the angel wing begonia leaf. And then I'll find something thrifting or at a garage sale or something, and it's a hand carved wooden rabbit and I love it. And I mean, so there's a stewardship angle of things that goes back to faith as well. You asked about mental health. I struggle with ADHD, as does my husband. And we just have to recognize that that's who God made us.
Right.
And
not
there's
have
nothing
condemnation
wrong
around it. Nothing's wrong. Yeah.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. There are benefits to that. The creativity probably being one of them. And we have to recognize when the house is starting to spiral into something that's not going to work. And then we try to, over the years, we've tried to keep it from not being traumatic for the kids. Like we have played characters. He has been Mrs. Doubtfire in family meetings before. I have been Mary Poppins. Like, we use funny accents. Our kids are teenagers now.
So you're not boring. Let's get real.
Right. And anything to get that message across without yelling. And we've also had the yelling and but I live by the philosophy that nothing can be too precious. Nothing can be more precious than my kids. And so when we entertain, which we do a lot, and like somebody spills their wine, I toss them a dish towel.
Yeah.
Our house is over 50 years old and it needed to be remodeled when we moved in, and
It's just stuck.
Right. That's expensive and there's a budget. And so bathrooms have been halfway finished and we've been like, you're going to have to, walk through this room and ignore the mess. And there's no wallpaper and sorry about the exposed sheetrock or whatever. But, we also try to look at it like if anyone is judging us, that's really their problem, not ours. And I think that comes from a mental health aspect of things too, like sitting in a therapist office and saying like, I feel bad when so-and-so, says, or they don't say anything, but I feel like they might be judging me. Well, is that something I'm telling myself or, and it usually is, that's a story I'm telling myself about what they think. And that's not my problem. I can't change them. So that didn't totally answer the mental health question,
but that's okay. No, I love it.
I am a proponent of medication.
You're so cute. I really just kind of want to bring that up because, but the fact that what you just brought up is true. We can't always worry about if someone's judging us, right? And we just need to be ourselves and be comfortable in our own skin, comfortable in our own home. And if it's a clean home, then great. If it's not, and that's how you choose to live, then great. But there's consequences with our choices, right? And so that's kind of the reality. Like if you can, do you really believe that you can thrive and function best in a hoarder home? Absolutely not. Like, we have to have like, our structure, our mind right. And we have to have structure. But again, most of those people that are living in a hoarding kind of condition, typically, I'm not saying all, but have some mental health issues. Right.
Yes. 100%.
So that's more of the thing to look at and say, okay, how do I, if I'm in that place myself of feeling overwhelmed with all of maybe I'm, creative and I've got a lot of different creative projects going on, but nothing feels completed or nothing feels organized. What would you say to that person in order to get those creative projects in order so that they actually can use their creativity and not feel so overwhelmed with the stuff?
Yeah, I would say focus on finishing things and start with the easiest thing first. A lot of times in the self-help space, you'll hear that
do
phrase,
the hard thing first.
Eat the frog. No, there's a dopamine. You get a dopamine kick from checking something off of your to-do list.
So get a quick win.
Yeah. And so you can use that strategy to build momentum change the trajectory of your day. And if you change the trajectory of your day, you're changing the trajectory of your week and your month and your year and your life,
Right. One of the reasons I make my bed every day. It's a win.
I made my bed this morning. I rarely do. I usually work from bed, and things are getting busier as we get into the book launch, and I'm not going to be able to be as relaxed. And so I thought, just if I get up and a lot of times I'll sit and work in bed, crisscross applesauce. And I just thought, just make the bed and you won't get back in it today. Like that'll, and that will change the trajectory of my day,
For sure.
And I think it's 1,000 little decisions. I don't know if you've heard the analogy of how do you get to the moon? It's 1,000 little mid-course corrections.
Mm-hmm.
If you're off by 2 degrees, you're going to end up way off,
And 1 degree. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I think I've struggled with my weight in the past, and you get frustrated and you think, I just want to change everything. But within each of us, there's an identity. We have this identity, this image of ourselves in our head. We're identifying with I'm identifying with myself as a person who weighs 160 pounds or whatever I weigh at the time, And so if I say, oh, I want to change, well, I have to change that identity in my head.
Absolutely.
before and so the same thing applies to the home. I have to start envisioning myself as a person who cleans her house. And that is also a person who gets out of bed and makes her bed, or, focuses on keeping the dishes out of the kitchen sink, or puts on, I mean, these are some hack, like put on tennis shoes that tie.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's about really, like you said, projecting that future self and making, like, I have my patients make vision boards and that kind of thing to really start to visualize that. But you're right, it happens right here in your head first. Like, who am I? First of all, I'm a child of the Most High. Sometimes we're not operating in that, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's the going back to WWJD. What would Jesus do? How would he be living in this space right now? So it's that, but it's also, like you said, knowing no matter what you've been told or how you were brought up, deciphering from the lies and planting the truth and setting that in motion so that the actions follow. It's so good.
Yeah, I've tried really hard with my kids. So one thing that you can sometimes hear your parents' voice in your head. I can hear my mom saying, Whitney, you leave a trail behind you everywhere you go. And I've tried really hard not to cast that vision over my kids' lives. I've tried to speak into who they are becoming and catch them doing something good, tell them what I'm seeing. I'm trying to structure that narrative that they're telling themselves. And I would say to somebody who's struggling with a dirty house, just if you're sitting there looking at the pile of laundry, just think to yourself, I am the kind of person who folds a pile of laundry.
Yeah.
And then guess what? It counts towards your 10,000 steps. If you get up and
there you go.
Easier said than done.
March while you fold.
Right. Easier said than done. I fully realize that. I don't mean to trivialize the struggle, because I'm there, I'm right. I'm in the thick of it with everybody else. So
yeah, no, the struggle is real for many, and we all have our areas where we can get more organized and even better decorated. Like I actually brought in someone to help me decorate my bookshelves and make it more appealing. And it was a very difficult thing because we had a lot of our things on there that, they have a story. It's not that they're bad, but it was just so cluttered. It just didn't feel right. And so she helped us kind of, keep those in place, but maybe take them to a different room. They don't all have to be right there, front and center, right? And it just helps so much. And as an interior designer, you understand that. You want it to be appealing to the eye and for it to feel good when you walk into a room.
Right.
And so is that a question that you ask yourself a lot? Like, when I walk in here, do I feel good?
I don't know that I asked. One thing that I did recognize at one point in time is that when you walk, I used to travel a lot for work, less since COVID, but I would walk into a hotel room and the first thing I would do would be to start cleaning out my purse. I was like,
really?
Why do I
That's
always
random.
clean out my purse? Well,
Making room for the Gideon Bible. What were you doing?
Right. I think it was about walking into an environment that was already clean, a clean hotel room. And I think it gave me the brain space and the capacity to like order something else, and so that's where my purse would get cleaned out. And I also, when you travel, I feel like you have to be very organized. Like you have to remember what pouch you put, the Advil in or whatever.
Passport, your ID.
Right. All the things. And you have to remember where they are so that you can grab them when you're going through security, all that. So, but I can also, on the decorating thing, as much as I don't like to clean my own house, although it doesn't take that, and it's really not even, it's just about, if something, okay, hang on, let me gather my words. It's amazing how fulfilling 15 minutes of time just on one corner, one half of a room can feel. And very often lighting is magic. Like God knew that. God is light, like there's something spiritual about the right lighting. Yeah. And I think when I think about how a room feels, that's where I go first is, some people say start with the rug, but if I'm trying to to clean and organize and I want it to feel a certain way, I got to get the lighting in place, like the lamps, the overhead, the light bulbs. It's, it really is all about making corners feel warm and inviting. And so I've probably spent a lot of money on lighting over the years. I love sconces. I mean, actually you can't see it. And I have these little sconce things.
But it brings a mood and it changes the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
The lighting.
And really if you can kind of declutter your surfaces and then get the right light bulbs and use some lamps, like get rid of overhead. I mean, a lot of people have overhead spots, but I mean, we do too, but it's just, and then you start.
Hold on. When you say the right light bulbs, are you saying like have more of a dim, warm?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. If you can get a dimmer light bulb, I love the light bulbs that have the timers on them. One tip I could give listeners would be don't buy the daylight bulbs. That's one big mistake that everybody makes is they think, oh, I want it to look like natural light. I'll buy the daylight bulbs. But the daylight bulbs actually are there. It gives off a bluer light that ends up feeling very cold, very sterile.
Like at a hospital or something.
Mm-hmm. Right. We had a friend who had a lake house one time thinking that she was like, I need all daylight bulbs in the house. And we walked in and she had kind of like a blue-gray color scheme going. And I hated going over there. Like it was just always so, like we would go over there to have drinks or something. And it was just always so bright and I'm like, turn off the overhead lights, throw some lamps in there, get rid of the daylight bulbs, get bulbs that dim. You can do so much and save the receipt. And if you don't like it, take it back and try to, the number of light bulbs I've returned and I don't have like one true one that works. We have a whole bucket of light bulbs in the garage.
You're right. But light is so important and for us physically as well. It's why, our circadian rhythms are in conjunction with sunrise and sunset. Like it's that red hue, it's that light, and it resets our hormones and gets our circadian rhythms balanced, rhythm balanced. And so there is so much to be said about light. I'm glad you brought that up. That's cool.
You might know more about this than I did, but I have a friend who does a bunch of research on this stuff, and all the lights in their house dim, or they change to like a red bulb at nighttime. I haven't done any research on that. I was kind of like, one of these days when I have time to tackle, light. When I have time to, change out all the light bulbs and they're probably like $50 a piece light bulbs or something, but but
it makes a difference with your health and your well-being and just your mental health, all of it.
Yeah.
Hormone levels. But, so many people are on the blue light with the screens like we're on right now, with your cell phone, with TV, whatever. And that messes with your health as well. But anyway, going back to your incredible book, I know I'm going to get you back on track here. Organize first, decorate second.
Yes.
Is there anything that you found very profound as you were writing it that you really want to share with my audience that could help them? Because maybe they're wired a little bit like you, and they love their stuff. They don't necessarily want to get rid of it, but they want a different environment so that their creativity can come out even more, right? Because sometimes it's stifled because it's just not organized.
I don't know that there's anything necessarily. I'm trying to think if there was like one major light bulb moment I had when I was writing the book about something, and nothing's like coming immediately to mind. But I would say that the idea of just making it beautiful, and when I say that, I don't mean like we don't have to do the whole glam up.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right?
Well, yes, but just like the little bits of effort, like some people will they've got their routines, whether about their space or their body, and they get up and they do all these things and they're checking the boxes. And then there are people like me who struggle with that. And so a whole routine can feel overwhelming. And in that moment, I just remind myself that a little bit is enough,
Yeah, it's good.
if I'm walking by a cluttered kitchen countertop, that maybe I'll just stop and sort it. If I have time, maybe I'll grab a cloth and wipe the tops off and get the dust off the pepper mill and things like that, but just little tiny steps add up over time. I think that would be the biggest, or the thing I fall back on is like,
yeah. No, I think that's important. And it's something that I tell my patients as well, is that something is better than nothing. So I think that's kind of what you're alluding to as well. Do something. Do something that's going to make you go, I feel accomplished. That looks good. And I feel better walking in here. So I think that's a great tip. One thing that I share, and I don't know if you would be in agreement with this, but I tell my patients, just go to that one room that's so overwhelming you and just start in one corner and start cleaning from that corner and work your way around. But don't leave that room and go to another room until that room's complete. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I've
especially as someone has, you said ADHD, so
it's hard. No, that's actually very hard for me. But I have read that in, I can't remember what, organizing or cleaning book, this idea that, and then when you pick up something and it has to go to another room, leave it outside the door. Don't walk. No, that's great advice. It is really hard for me to do that. And so sometimes I do just put my running shoes on, and we live in a very long, skinny house, and I do walk from, so if this goes to the kitchen, I'll go to the kitchen, I'll do something in the kitchen. I fully recognize that the downside of that is you don't get that dopamine kick from like, I did one room,
Yeah.
But I think you have to work with however
but
you're
it works
wired.
For you. Okay.
Yeah. And try both techniques,
Yeah.
I think both are good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. All right. Well, thank you so much, Whitney, for being on Visibly Fit. You gave some great little nuggets to share with my audience, and I appreciate that. And your book, Organize First, Decorate Second, is out. They can order it now. Yeah.
Pre-orders are available now. If you go to Organize First, Decorate Second, you can actually pre-order and get some bonuses. You'll get a sample chapter and a fun email campaign where I have dressed up in costumes and give tips.
Are you Mary Poppins?
No, I still have 3 of those videos left to film. So we maybe we'll pull Mary Poppins out.
Okay.
But there's a gypsy in there, and then an explorer. Okay. And then there's also a little handbook on how to help with the decorating side of things.
Very fun. So it's organizefirstdecoratesecond.com, but also WhitneyEnglish.com, and you can find all of that there.
Yes.
Right? All right.
Yes.
You're awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate your time. God bless you. And I wish you the best on your book.
Thank you, Wendie.
All right. Take care. Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Visibly Fit podcast. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had a few nuggets that you could apply into your environment to make it a better place that works for you. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in. Go to WhitneyEnglish.com if you want to learn more about Whitney. But if you are wanting to organize your health and your well-being, that's where you come to me. And I would love to walk with you hand in hand and get you into your best, healthiest self. Go to WendiePett.com, or if you're ready to get started, go to GetVisiblyFit.com and we can get started today. Talk about spring cleaning. Spring is actually the time that we get ready for that summer body. So now is the time, sister. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to taking you along your health and wellness journey and having you get into that, just in that place that you have been desiring to be in for a long time. Mind, body, spirit, emotions. Again, go to getvisiblyfit.com and I'll see you there. Blessings, and we'll catch you next time on the Visibly Fit podcast.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to WendiePett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.